Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the Business of Sports show. Now today we have another front row legend himself. Phil Greening is joining us. Morning, Phil.
Good morning, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, super, mate. Super. Yourself?
Yeah, good. No, very well.
Excellent, mate. Excellent. So for all the people who don't necessarily know who you are, introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Phil Greening. I'm a former professional rugby player. Played for Gloucester originally, then Sale, then Wasps. My most successful time at Wasps, England, British Lions. And then went on to coach Championship clubs, Premiership clubs, and then international sevens. And I'm currently the performance sort of coach of the men's and women's sevens for the USA.
Ventured across the pond, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll talk about that in a bit. So let's talk about your playing days then. Let's jump in straight into that. What was your route to the professional game like?
Well, I mean, I was around when it started turning professional, and I actually didn't play rugby until I was about 14, I think, 13, 14. I was a footballer before then. I was on some Swindon Town schoolboy.
That explains so much, mate.
Yeah, mate. And I was a little young Moby, I think, a little fat bloke who played around in the middle and could pass. But I think I just grew bigger than rugby. And then my school was a football school anyway, and so I played for a junior club around 13, 14 called Spartans, which is a club in Gloucester, just over from Kingsholm actually, and just got involved in rugby. And the girls from school used to come down on a Sunday, and my dad would have a few beers, so I quite enjoyed that bit. So the football, football's quite cold. It weren't much team stuff. My dad would drop me off, I'd play, we get picked up. There was no clubhouse, so I'd do football on a Saturday. Sunday morning, I'd go and play with my mates rugby. Then I'd have to go and play football in the afternoon. And, I'd be, the girls from school would be down there and the boys would be hanging out. And so I said, my dad, Tim, get me back in the rugby club. And of course, having a little shandy or whatever and playing pool and the girls around, it sort of, I wanted to go to rugby rather than football. So I got rid of the football and carried on with rugby. And fortunate for me, it got in my blood. And that was me. I played county schools after that, and then next I'm in England under 16s, and my career took off without me knowing, really, if anything.
Yeah. So how did Gloucester pick you up?
Just through the county and the junior clubs, So I went through play for Gloucester County, and then I think then got into the Colts and things like I played England under 18s, and sort of I was in the system, and Gloucester obviously knew all about me and sort of picked me up. And I think I was 16, 17 when I really started to get into Gloucester and become sort of semi-pro, if anything. I started doing bits and pieces at the club and training with them and things like that. So it just grew in from then. And made my debut, I think I was 18, 19 for Gloucester against Harlequins, which was a massive game because it was Brian Moore's last game and my first game. So that was quite a transition.
Going up against the old, up against the old head.
Yeah, which, is amazing, really, because I'll never forget, played that game. And funny story, Mike Teague was my captain then, and he said to me, if you don't hit Brian Moore after the first scrum, I'm going to knock you out myself. And being a young lad, I was like, fair enough. So first scrum, get up and hit Moore, and then just grab him, and it all kicks off above me. And I've become a little folklore legend, I suppose, at Gloucester overnight. And but it was only because I didn't want to fight Mike Teague, so I thought I'd have a go at Brian. And
the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, and then after the game, Jason Leonard, and that was the first time I met Jace. Him and Brian Moore come up and gave me a beer and said, well done. And I've still got the cuttings now with Brian Moore speaking so highly of me, and that I'd be the next England hooker sort of thing. And so and me and Moore was friends, about the same as Jace, friends ever since. And that's just the beauty of rugby as well.
So did you actually manage to shut Brian Moore up? Did you?
No, still can't. No, you got no chance. Yeah, you got no chance.
For that split second when you hit him,
I bet you thought, what the hell is this kid doing, this young kid? But it was only because I didn't want to fight Mike Teague. That was I didn't want to get with him.
This kid's got a death wish. Yeah. So, I mean, you played for Gloucester, was it, for a few seasons, then ventured up north to Sale. So, what was that? Talk to me about the kind of decision for that. Was Sale
Well,
the
I
only
mean,
option, or
no, it was taken out of my hands. Obviously, I got into Gloucester very early. I had everything too early, if I'm honest, when you reflect on it. And it sort of ran away with me. The town is engulfs the club, and so I was a superhero really. I couldn't walk anywhere. Everyone wanted to buy me a drink, and that sort of. I went down that route, and I put
yeah,
on weight, and I wasn't performing. I was capped for England, and all that. And Clive Woodward and Dave Redding, the fitness guy, then was like, you need to get away from Gloucester, And John Mitchell, who was the forwards coach for England, was at Sale. So Clive said, right, I want you to move, and we did a deal for me to move to Sale, and it was the best thing I ever did. Really, I mean, I love Gloucester; it's my hometown, and some amazing people, and so grateful for what they gave me and still give me. It's a fantastic club and the heritage there, but I had to get away from the town and my friends and everything else that was going on at Gloucester. So Clive, pushed me to Sale, and he wanted to structure a deal where actually I become part owned by the RFU, which never materialised. So that was Clive was trying to do the central contract back then, which would have been fantastic. So that was the deal, and I went to Sale, and Mitch, he was like, "You're about a stone overweight," and I was like, "Whatever, mate." I was Gloucester captain, and playing for England, and he put a weighted vest on me and got me to run around the track, and I think I made one lap. I went, "Yeah, fair enough." So that was it, and that transformed me. And I got into being fit and healthy, and that just I become my training partner then in England was Neil Back, and me and Backy got close because I knew I had to change the way I was, and I think my career propelled from there. And then when Mitch left Sale, I got an opportunity to go to Wasps, and then that's where it really all kicked in. Really,
it's interesting that you said about leaving Gloucester and kind of getting away from that environment, your kind of friends and background there, because you've just launched a gym with Genji, haven't you?
Yes, we're helping. We supply, we design and make gym equipment, and we've got our own gyms called we're the Athlete Factory, and we do all that for teams. So we've just done Wigan's gym, we've done Genji's gym. So we can design. We've got our own factory, so we can design any kit we want. So so helping Ellis, which is great. So he's looking at his business post rugby already, which is fantastic.
Well, the only reason why I kind of say that is because it's a similar story to. Well, I say not quite a similar story, but he left Bristol because of
that. Yeah, I mean, I hung around with the naughty boys. My school was a naughty school. If you got expelled, you that's where you got sent to my school. And we had the travellers in the winter. They disappeared in the summer. Some of them are my best mates, and still are now. And funny enough, the Freemans who actually run all the catering at Twickenham, all hot dog vans and all that. That's them. I grew up with them.
Okay.
And so they're good Gloucester boys, but they're some of the naughty boys I hung around with, and was not good for me, back then. And even though I went on, you always get dragged back into it, and some amazing people, and I'm glad I had that, but I did have to get away. I think I wouldn't have lasted very long if I'd have stayed at Gloucester, unfortunately.
Yeah. I obviously, went from Sale to Wasps then. And obviously, like you said earlier, you had the probably most successful period of your career then. Because, I mean, let's face it, Wasps were an absolute beast during that time.
Yeah, like for the 6-7 years, was that period we won everything. We were the best team in Europe by far, and consistency as well. And the people who had a massive impact from that club, everyone from Nigel Melville, who first got me there, but when Warren Gatland come along, that he still shapes my world now. He changed everything. Craig White, who's my mentor, and now, and so Gats, I lean on with my coaching stuff. they had a massive impact on me and the club. And they were the most successful times. And some, I mean, even now, I'm part of the Wasps Legends group, and there's 200 and odd of us who
Yeah.
the banter on WhatsApp and doing events, and it is really true. Really, it's more than just a club. It's the people, and it's a special place, Wasps. And Gats was a massive influence on me. He actually got me into probably what I'm doing in my philosophy now. And Sean Edwards as well. He was a good pal. He's a good pal. And his defence and Sean, about everything about Sean, has rubbed off on me. But I remember Gats, sitting me down saying for England with Clive, and I'd be in the back line and coming off Johnny and playing in the centres to get my hands on the ball, and he was like, mate, that's all great, but your fitness and your contact, your tackling, you need to win the ball for us, and we'll win premierships on that. And I'm like, whatever, mate. I'm a ball player. I'm a back in a fat bloke's body. I can play. And he's like, no, mate, I need you to do this. And I bought into it, and sometimes it's hard to accept your roles, but we went on to win the premierships we did in the European Cup simply because Gats had that model, and he had the right people in the right place, and that's how it all worked. And thankfully, I listened to him.
You've got to kind of obviously talk about Wasps with a bit of a heartfelt
heavy heart
at the moment.
Because very much so.
As someone who obviously rode those high times with Wasps, obviously with what's happened recently, I mean, you never like to see it happen with any club.
No.
But I mean, Wasps just seems like it's just unbelievable. I mean, from your point of view as a former player, a legend of Wasps, what's your take on it?
I mean, it was devastating. It is. It's the history and like I said, it's not just a club. We're not a place. We're not just a club. We're the people, and it's the people in it. There's some amazing people, and it was heartbreaking. And I think I was never really comfortable with them moving away from London. I always thought it's always London Wasps, and I still do say London Wasps now as a habit. And on paper though, it seemed it would work. I think they just didn't realise what taking on the businesses like the casinos and the hotels and all would have an impact on them. And it's just the mismanagement, I suppose, of it all. And it's horrible that it's happened and it was allowed to happen. I think that's if there is a good thing coming out of all this, it is that now there's an awareness of how clubs operate, and hopefully there's going to be some protocols and procedures in place to make sure this never happens again. But for a 150-year history of a club with such a heritage and world known, and for the people to lose their jobs overnight was heartbreaking. And the only really great thing is, and it just shows what the club is like, is that the Wasps legends and the people behind the scenes trying to resurrect the club have worked so hard to get us where we are now, and I'm hoping that we can turn a corner and get us back. And I'm very thankful that we've got some fantastic people within that Wasps legends that are trying to build and get this great club back together. And I, for one, will definitely put my hand up to do whatever I can to do it. And I think everyone's like that within the Wasps family.
I think that's kind of synonymous with the with rugby in general, isn't it? It's
100%, yeah.
I think with football can be a little bit more fickle, and kind of, you look at when the Glazers took over Man United, and all of a sudden FC Manchester, cropped up because they didn't want to support Man United, but they still wanted football, so they started their own club, and and I think with rugby it's a case of no, let's we're one family, let's do this. Do you think though that the finances of rugby these days in the professional era, do you think they've somewhat been blown out of proportion in terms of players' wages and stuff like that? Because years ago, I mean, I've got a few friends who played semi-pro and things like that, and they're on kind of normalish wages, and now you look at some of these players getting signed, and they're getting signed for six figures per season, a decent six figures per season.
Yeah, yeah,
And you're thinking, is that really sustainable? Because let's face it, rugby isn't as big as football. That you're not filling 70,000 seater
no,
stadiums every week. As a passionate Welsh rugby fan, Christ, I know that Welsh rugby, you'd be lucky to get 5,000 in a stadium
yeah,
at times,
yeah,
and and you go, well, actually, the players are still on the same kind of wages. They're still on, 100, 200, maybe 300,000 at least. I mean, I had Reece Thomas, the Welsh prop, on
yeah.
a while ago, and I remember him signing for the Scarlets at the time, and it was one of the biggest contracts for a tight head prop, and
Yeah,
all of. I mean, he wouldn't tell me how much, but you can imagine it was a big contract, and you're thinking that's just for one player, and that, I mean, that was 10, 12 years ago, I think at least, and now you've got players signing on for supposedly £1 million contracts and God knows what. It's all crazy money. Do you think the finances of rugby have kind of reached that point where they're not sustainable?
oh yeah, 100%. I think it just doesn't add up. You look at the salary cap and then what they pay people. It's like, well, you can only pay three players, and that's your salary cap's gone. It's like, how does that
Yeah,
work? Then you got the marquee on top, and I get all that, but it's not sustainable if you think about it business wise of money coming in, money going out. The P&L, it can't add up because like you said, you're not getting a massive amount of sponsorship. The TV deals are shared, and that's not that big compared to like football, for instance. But so how do you say sustain it? How do you generate that funds to cover the wages of the playing staff, let alone all your back staff in the offices? So how does that work as a business? And I think that's the biggest thing. You look at all the good thing about the Wasps and the Worcester scenario is that these things are coming out now and it's being tested, because previously
yeah.
it's just a private owner. He's happy to waste his 5 to 10 mil a year. He don't care. He's got his little toy. It don't matter. But actually, when they walk away or they don't want to do that anymore, what happens to the club? Are you self-sufficient to be able to stand on your own? You look at your Leicesters, they've got a business model with, the car park and the Indian weddings, the business they got, the amount of money they generate from all that sort of stuff. They have that outside, so they're a healthy club. Even them, they're losing money. But all the other clubs can't do it. It's impossible. When you look at
Yeah.
some of the, like you said, the punters coming in, you're getting 5 to 10,000. You might get 15. Some of the clubs, but it doesn't add up. And I think the good thing, like I said, has come out of it. Look at the French model, which I wasn't aware of until this had come out, is that they have a separate governing body to the league, the union, everything. It's just an independent reviewer who every year the clubs have to get their license. They have to apply. They have to put into their P&L. They have to all their finances. They have to do their projections. And if they're not meeting any of this, they don't get sanctioned. They're not in the league. They're gone. And so there's a governing
Wow.
body looking after that, where you have to be accountable for every penny that goes in and out, and your business has to run and be sustainable. And I think, hopefully that's what's going to be taken on by the Premiership and the unions to make sure the clubs can survive, because I mean, that's just the sensible way to do it. Whereas before, it's all, oh, he's all right, and the owner's putting the money there. All right, don't have to worry about them. But what happens when that owner goes away, or that owner's done something else that jeopardizes the club, like the Saracens? But even Nigel Ray, bless him, he's been amazing for rugby and everything. He
Yeah.
just used a grey area to make sure the players are looked after and everything's okay. And that you just got to take your hat off him, because he was trying to look after the player. And that's it. That's all he wanted to do. And but that then created a competition for everyone else to try and do something, because they need the players as well. So it created that sort of vacuum of people trying to bend the rules to make it work, and it's just got out of hand. But hopefully now we can dust all that off. Wasps have fallen on the sword for it, and Worcester, but hopefully it's going to make rugby better and more sustainable, because it isn't, and that's 100% true. And we can't grow the game or make it more attractive or get more crowds and sponsorship if this is hanging over us, I think.
Yeah, and I think at all levels the game has suffered massively since COVID.
Mm.
And again, it kind of almost feels like the RFU aren't really helping the situation, and certainly with this new tackle
Yeah,
height
yeah,
thing. I mean, the amount of players that I've spoken to have gone, you know what, I'm retiring because I can't get down that low anymore.
yeah,
I'm thinking, you know, I'm glad I'm retired because,
yeah.
Christ, yeah, I can't remember the last time I made a tackle that low. So I think rugby. I think rugby's had a bit of a turning point at the moment, and I think whichever way we go is going to, it's going to need to be kind of quite important because I like the idea of the French model. That kind of makes a lot of sense because
Oh,
at the end of the day,
yeah,
well, it's the same as in football. You've got the fair play financial rules and things
yeah,
like that, and therefore, if you're not really sustainable and stuff, then well, you need to make a change. And I think I certainly know with the French game, there's a lot more money in it, which is why there's always been that kind of issue between the French national team and the club game because well,
well,
clubs can make a lot more money.
yeah,
Um, Although it's nice to see that they've kind of got that unified, kind of
yeah, very much so. Yeah,
thing at the moment for the World Cup, which I think I think they're looking quite good for it at the moment. But
yeah. I can't see anyone else. With French players playing on French soil in the World Cup, Jesus, it.
yeah,
It's like we used to laugh about because you didn't know what team was going to turn up when we played at home at Wasps, but when we went to Stade Francais or Toulouse or anything like that, or Clermont, you knew you were in for a battle, and you 1 week they'd win 40 points at home, they smash someone, then go away to the same team and lose by 40 because they're not at
yeah,
home. It's just the French, So they've changed that mentality definitely. But you see a French World Cup with a French team that's developing like they are, then and with Sean Edwards at the helm and Raf Ibanez, who's done a great job as manager and pulling everything together, and Gaultier as well. They've really done a unison for the whole of rugby of France, and I think that's you got to take a hat off for those boys who's done that.
definitely. Just going back to your kind of playing days, we've gone quite deep into the admin
Yeah.
kind of side of things there. So your time at Wasps then, how would the game change from you coming into Gloucester as a young lad at the cusp of professionalism,
Mm.
um, to when you actually retired at Wasps?
I mean, I think the person, well, the two people again who influenced me, Warren Gatlin and Craig White, but especially Craig White because their philosophy, I think, is now embedded in every club. About being a fit and powerful team. The strength and conditioning and what we did at was pioneered for everyone else through the club, through the leagues. I think and World Rugby philosophy. It's Craig got us immensely fit, and we backed ourselves to win those games in the last 20 minutes, stay in the arm wrestle, all that sort of stuff was built around Craig and Gat's philosophy of being the fittest, most powerful, and most defensive-minded club in the league, and that's what won us our cups really. And Craig pioneered that, and I think the game then really did switch into the sports science mode, and so the jump from me doing a few runs and old school stuff at Gloucester and doing a bit of weights to then being a full-time having my bloods done and hair samples if I had looking at nutrition and all that sort of stuff, all the data that gets filled in your periodization and all that sort of come in, and Craig was at the pioneer of that, and that was a big change in the game, and it still is now. I'm in that world now, and we're always looking at the data and the edges of everything and how we plan things, and the game's massively moved on from a sports science side of it, and I think that's what's changed the game.
Yeah, it's almost changed it from being almost a pub side to professional
Yeah,
elements of it. Of let's face it, even I coach amateur club, but even where we've got a camera, we're looking at the analytics that come back from that because we've got one of those VO cameras that breaks it all down for us. So therefore, I can send the forwards a few clips from lineouts and go, well, look, this is what we need to do, or look at our back line, look at our defensive line, and we're coming up too quick. So, and that's a level 9 in the English setup, and you kind of
Yeah,
go, that's bonkers, because years ago it would literally be right. You write your team sheet on the back of a fag packet,
and that
and
was it. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
But you look
yeah,
at Craig done all that, and the people we had around us. Ryan, who's at Toulon now. Paul Strigen, who's the head of British Lion in Wales. He was our, we called him Bobby Boucher because he was our water boy. So Bobby was he gone through. Mark Bitcombe was with us. He was head of performance of Wigan and Man City. So Craig had this group of people who he developed, and then they've gone on to, like I said, Alan Ryan at Toulon. He was Bath, and then he was at Toulon. Johnny O'Connor, who played up inside. He learnt off Craig. He went to Arsenal, and now he's at Connaught. So there's a massive influence from that Wasps era in S&C that's gone out into rugby and changed the game. But then the coaches as well. You look at Rob Haley, Alex King, Mike Friday, myself, Sean. It's
yeah,
and then George Skivington, Don Waldock at Gloucester. Trevor Woodman at Gloucester. It's that
yeah.
Wasps era really did transform the game in so many ways, and continue have a big impact on the game.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to think of it like that, isn't it? That kind of revolutionary period where, was it, you won 3 premierships on the bounce and a couple of
Yeah,
European trophies.
yeah.
Which is a hell of an achievement. But yeah, when you look at actually how that group is kind of dispersed now, and the success that they've had.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gats and Craig and Bobby. It is just and like I said, the players like Kingy now being at Wales. It's fantastic. To see what we're all doing now, and it's all been influenced by 2 people, which is Gats and Craig.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's talk about your England days then. So was it 29 caps for England?
Yeah.
So went to went to the 99 World Cup.
99, missed out the 2003.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Because I must admit, when I was kind of prepping for our chat, I was sure that you went to the 2003 World Cup.
No, I got injured going into it. So the boys, Westy, Mark Regan, Westy, Tomo. Yeah, so didn't get in the mix of that. But I had a great run with England. I think if I know what I know now about nutrition and fitness and stuff, I think I'd have been a lot better and got more caps. But that's great. But no, I was under some great coaches in Clive and Brian Ashton, Andy Robertson, John Mitchell, all that, and Dave Redding in the S&C. It was just I had a great backroom staff around me. But then the players I was fortunate to be amongst was. It's just a great time from period in rugby, really, for English rugby, both Wasps and England, for me to be in. I'm very grateful and see myself very lucky to be involved in.
I've got to ask you this: were you ever mocked for wearing the gloves?
No, I only wore them once. Only wore them. Yeah, I know. I tried them because everyone else was doing it, but no, it didn't work for me. Didn't work for me.
So why don't you think you had more England caps? Because the hookers that you named are for the 2003 they were all a certain build, and I always thought you as a hooker always seemed quite small, because you did quite a bit on the 7 circuit as well, didn't you?
Well, no, this is it. I wasn't that small. I was 110 kilograms. Just that I was fit and fast with it. Like I was back in a fat bloke's body, so I moved around. I mean, I always used to, people say, "Oh, he can't scrummage, can't do that because he's got too much energy running around." But I got myself super fit, and that was what got me noticed. Because I could play and make breaks and be there and turnovers and tackles and all that sort of thing that the modern day hooker now does. And is expected to. But I think, if I'm honest, I think my way I portrayed myself sometimes, I suppose, didn't go down that well with Clive. And, we've had chats post-career about all this. And, I think me and him fell out a little bit, but also I didn't help myself the way I portrayed the way I was. I think I let the fame get to me. I didn't, I got distracted by all that. I think that there's a lot of that in it. And I think I ended up being more of a pain in the ass for Clive than what it's worth, I think, if I'm honest. Because, you know, I was more front page than back page sometimes, you know, and I think that was the start of it. And, you know, and living in London and being successful with Wasps and, you know, being a bit different with bald head and a pierced tongue and all that I had going on at the time. I mean, I thought I was Dennis bloody Rodman, I think, of the rugby world. And that's probably got a lot to do with it. And I think, you know, I have learned, like, you know, like now with coaching, you know, it's like I have done everything that everyone's done. I've already done all that. Just thankfully then you didn't have a bloody phone that everyone could video it.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus Christ, yeah. So, you know, I think that had a lot to do with it. You know, and that didn't go down well, you know, especially at the higher level. You know, Wasps, I could get away with it, but, you know, when I got to England, I wasn't doing what I should have been doing. In which, God, if I did that, if I know, you know, what I know now with all the education I've done post career, is I think I'll be on 100 odd caps. I'll still be playing probably, you know. So it's but no, I think that's the reason. If I'm brutally honest, it was my downfall, not my talent or anything else. I think I just ended up not being as focused as I was when I started coming through. Maybe, you know, that's probably the answer, if I'm honest.
Do you think that probably from a kind of not playing point of view, you know, so obviously your off the field stuff, do you think that the clubs didn't provide you with, you know, the supports and kind of, because I'd assume at these days a lot of players are given like social media training and kind of.
Well, I also think, you know, the phone is a big thing. Like, you can't sneak out for drinks anymore. You know, like, we love to drink, like 100%. I love a drink. You know, I absolutely loved it. I was the typically of a rugby player who just wanted to get out as many parties I'd go to and enjoy London life. You know, that was always, you know. So, and we were a sociable Wasps team as well. You know, we loved to drink. We had to earn our drink. We had a thing about, you know, we only go out if we win. And, you know, Gats had a thing about man at night, man in the morning. So if you did go out for a drink, you had to show up and deliver. And if you didn't, then he was all over you. So, you know, there was a culture of that which actually stopped us from drinking a lot, to be fair, because we're like, we can't keep up the levels that Craig wants us to get to, or Gats wants us to get to, if we're on the piss all the time. You know, so all that actually stopped, because it was a bit of a change of psychology, I suppose, for Gats. Like, well, you can go out for a drink, lads. Go fill your boots. But as soon as you don't perform, I'm going to let you have it. What do you mean? We don't have to sneak out anymore. We can go out for a drink. But yeah, crack on. Yeah, and we had that. So I think I loved all that, and I think that then my Gloucester days caught up with me in London, and then that sort of, but there was support, but I just don't think that we didn't know what we know now about all that. But also, you know, as a player, you like now I'm still conscious now, no one knows who I am really, because I'm bald and thin and got a beard now, but and glasses. But like, you know, I still worry about what people outside would think. So if I was a player, if I was Ellis Genge, for Jesus, you couldn't do anything. You know, because someone with a phone will take you, and then next year it's front pages and on the internet and Twitter and Instagram, and you're gone. It's all over. So I think players now have that awareness that they can't do these things, you know. So, you know, even when Cipriani sort of took that side of it all, you know, that was the papers and the paparazzi, not people. But now everyone's got a phone and everyone's a paparazzi, and that's the difference, I think. And there is a bigger support network. It's just, you know, people weren't aware of this sort of stuff when I was playing, and like I said, thankfully, I think I could speak for a lot of players in my era. Thankfully, there wasn't phones about then and social media.
Yeah.
And junior players, you know, I bet there's a lot of people thinking, you know, our age, thinking, Jesus Christ, I'm glad social media wasn't around in my day when I had to do the initiation with the shot glass upside down in the pint glass, like naked at the bar, the rugby club, you know, all that sort of stuff. Jesus Christ, yeah.
We're not meant to talk about things like that.
Oh yeah, sorry. We never do that. You know,
it's all civilized.
I mean, I remember at my junior club, I remember when I was at Gloucester going back with Philippe Saint-Andre and Phil Vickery and Trevor. We went down for a drink at at Spartans, and they made us all do a boat race, you know, trousers down, and I think that's Philippe Santon. And I'm Gloucester boy, I'm like, that's Philippe Santon Dre. He's a legend. He's like that naked, necking a drink. It's like, but that was how it was back in them days. But you know, you ain't got a picture of that now.
Yeah, these days there'll be phones out everywhere, and just
you know, and that's, you know, I'm trying to educate my son about it all. You know, it's a minefield, but you know, once you put it out there, it's out there. You can't get it back. You know, and that's, you know, we've seen that with the cricketers, and people are, you know, you lose their jobs over something they did 10, 15 years ago. It suddenly appears, and you've got to be aware of it. And I think the players are super aware of that now, and I think that's what makes things different, and that probably makes why there aren't so many characters, I suppose, in the game like there were, you know, from Haskell's probably the last one, Haskell Tins and all them lot. They, you know, they're the last crew, and that's probably just how the world is now.
We don't talk about other podcasts. It's fine.
No, exactly, no, especially them two. But they haven't had young yet, so sod them.
exactly. But no, I think you're right, because again, you know, when you read or listen to Hask's book and talking about, you know, boat trips with Wasps and things like that, and the antics and stuff.
The best boat trip ever. Down the Thames, the best boat trip ever. Oh my God.
For legal reasons, we can't go into much more.
No, but honestly, I'll never forget. I mean, we were, Jesus Christ, what a day. What a day. Yeah. What a day.
But that's the thing, everybody's got a phone these days, so therefore, you know, if you're gonna kind of celebrate or let loose, then you're gonna have to do it behind closed doors.
Yeah, 100%.
And yeah, that is a bit disappointing, because you can't relax and you can't. You know, the kind of amateur days have kind of totally kind of gone. It kind of feels like.
Yes, but I think that's, I think it's for not just the top team. I think it's for everyone. I suppose it's the same pressure. You'd be, if you're you know, Spartans down at Gloucester in the lower leagues, or the Premiership. Everyone's got a phone, and it's the same story that can get out there. It's just how big it can get out there, I suppose, or how it gets taken on. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, talking about kind of, you know, a bit of controversy and things like that. Obviously, there was that handoff with Rougerie.
Yeah.
I mean, talk us through that, because you know, I've read bits and pieces about it, and rugby is a contact sport, which means you're going to get injuries are going to happen.
It was a strange one. Like, you know, I'm in the game. You know, I remember I was carrying the ball and I dummied and went for the hole, and I wasn't even looking at him. I just put my hand out to defend him, and he's coming high, and it wasn't like an elbow. It's just a straight arm that caught him, you know, because he's coming to grab me high, and I'm turning the other way. I'm just doing this, and so freak accident, and that was like middle of the first half.
And he's a big lad anyway, so therefore, you know,
and he didn't come out at half time. Didn't think anything of it. Nothing. We won. Went back to England. You know, and then next year I got a letter at Wasps in French, so I didn't have a clue what that was. So I had to get some of the lads to read it me, and it was about me going to court in France and being sued. So, you know, got a hold of Damien Hopley, the PRA. Went, you know, got to oh my God, a brilliant ref, not Spreadbury, the other guy. Oh my God. Anyway, he'll kill me now. He's a West Country boy as well. He'll kill me for getting his name. But you know, reached out to them, going like, what's this about? And you know, the PRA were brilliant. Damien was brilliant about it. But you know, I even went to Paddy O'Brien and World Rugby, and they're like, this must happen 1,000 times every day. You know, this can't go to court. And you know, Wasps got involved, and you know, we got it thrown out of that court. So I thought it was all over. And then I'll never forget being this coming. It was a couple of years maybe, or a year or two after I retired. And I was working for Standard Chartered Bank then in Singapore, and I had to be in London every month for a couple of days with the management team. And I was in the hotel, read the paper, said Phil Green gets sued for 40 grand. I was like, what? And so I ring Damon and go, what the hell? And it went to civil court. So Rougerie took it on and went to civil court, and he won. And next year I got a bill, and you know, that was it. It was like, how the hell has this all happened? You know, and it was crazy. But you know, in a way, it was not nice, but you know, it could have opened a massive can of worms for rugby, and I think that's what World Rugby was worried about as well, because rugby players suing rugby players on an accident is ridiculous, you know. So So it was tough, but I was very fortunate. Damon Hopley helped immensely, and and the RFU and Wasps, they end up sort of helping me through it, but it's still a costly accident in the game that really didn't need him. A lot of it was as well. Um, he had to have an operation on his throat. It got infected. He wasn't insured. So I think, there's all these things that obviously fueled his side where he lost earnings from playing. He didn't play for France, so he claimed all that. And, but he weren't insured. So, what do you want me to do? More for you. But
and it's a contact game.
Yeah, and it was literally an accident. I mean, I'd get it if it was me of leading in, going front on, and leading with an elbow or doing a high shot, or but I literally done it to go through the hole, and I didn't look, and he's just come in like this, and that was it. So it was just another thing that another story in my career. I think more than anything.
Yeah. Do you think that with the state of rugby these days, with the whole high tackles, the whole concussion issues, everything like that, do you think we're going to see some more of this kind of starting to creep in? Because let's face it, we are in that kind of culture these days of somebody to blame, and
I don't think we'll get the Rougerie one again. I think people are a bit more sensible about that. I think that was I don't know what mindset he was in, and to do it, but I don't think you'll get that side of it. I think the concussion one, I think they're trying to change the game and make people accountable to change. And I agree with a lot of it. I mean, some of the HIA stuff I don't agree with, and the protocols that it's a dated system, that there's other things that give you better measurements that's been out for 10, 15 years that we haven't adopted, and when you look into how it was created, there's a bit of mates looking after each other and some hidden investments in it. Let me just say that to make it work, but it's flawed. I mean, even now with teams, I work with, we prime them with the answers ready to get them through that test so we can have them back. And that's flawed in itself. We don't take any risks, but still, that's if the player passes that HIA, then he's back out there with. We don't really know what's going on in his brain, how it's affected his waves and all that sort of, neurologically, how any damage has been done from answering a couple of questions. I mean, you look at the Jamie George incident. I mean, that was when I saw it, and I think Jamie's a fantastic player. He's a top bloke, and I was like, shit, that's bad. And the next year he comes back on, and it's like, how has that been allowed? I mean, that's just mental. It's like, rugby league. I've been fortunate with my gym. My training facility, we've had Wigan in last few weeks and in pre-season, and been working quite closely with them, and they tell us about how it works in the league, and there ain't no messing around in the league. They've got it right. If you get any category 1 symptom, you're gone for 3 weeks regardless. There's no protocol. You're just done. You don't do anything for 3 weeks. The referee can give a card. I think it's a blue card, where he just goes, "You're done, mate. There's no forget doctors. Not you look after him, but he ain't coming back. He's done. I don't care what happens." And there's independent doctors. There's a lot of people can make that decision and take it away. And I know we've got these independent doctors doing the HIA, but it's obviously not working. It can't. There's got to be a safer, more sensible way to do it. And I think having that strict. I mean, my son got a knock at the weekend. He's 13, and he's done for 21 days. Can't do anything at school. Can't play football at break. Can't do this. Can't do. And that's why is that different to Jamie George?
Yeah.
I know it's extremities. I get it, but how come my son can't do it? And thankfully, I'm glad that he is getting looked after like that. But what the brain's a brain. So why Jamie turns around in 5 days because he passed the test and he's training back with England doing bits and bobs
just because you paid for it? Yeah.
And you've done a HIA or a cognitive sport test, which is flawed again. So there's a better way to do it. I have got a bit of a high horse on it, I must admit, because I just think there's a safer way to do this. Because if we take that out of the game and make it safer, and there's no ambiguity, and there is proper looking after people, and not trying to think about I need my best players out as quick and return as best as I can, then we won't have these issues about all this stuff. We won't. It's just not been managed very well. The RFU have known this for years, 20 years. They've known the data, and it's not changed in 10 to 15 years of this protocol, and it needs changing. So I get why the players are doing it, and I think I'm fully supportive to making it a safer game. And the tackle stuff is, I think that's a consequence of them panicking, trying to make it work when they haven't thought it through, and now it's all backtrack. And thankfully, I'm hoping it'll just go back to what we all want, is probably the sternum or the nipple, and just leave it at that, and off we go, and everyone will be happy again.
Yeah, well, exactly.
If the RFU would have come out in a better way and said, this is what we're thinking about doing, and we have, you look at the French study. I read the research on it, and the ball carrier had so many restrictions. You couldn't even dive for a try because that's stopping someone going for the waist. So it'd be a penalty. It'd be a disallowed try if you dive. So the pick and go, closing the window, you can't close the window, so you can't dip your shoulder. And it's like, okay, if you'd have said that would have made sense. But you change it, but they didn't. They just come out with this waist and below, and that's it. And it's like, well, there's so many variables, there's so many different things that can go on. And the French study had, an average of 40-odd penalties per game. I mean, no one wants that. No, 2-man tackles. You can't have 2-man tackles in that. So it's like, you didn't tell us. It changes so much.
I think it changes so much, because even clearing out at rucks, well, technically, if the guy's bridging over, you can't do anything. You can't touch him because
mauls. What are you gonna do on mauls?
Yeah,
there's not been no thought on it, and I get this. I get trying to make it 100% behind it, but there's just been no thought of that, and it's like I said, not explained about the clash of heads around tackles is quite a big thing. 2 men hitting heads, the carrier dipping and using his elbow and his shoulder to bump you as you're trying to go to his waist. There's another bit of contact that can damage and give head knocks. The hip, the knee. There's so many variables, and you look at even the French. Made me giggle because the head-on-head concussion was reduced. Brilliant. What? But you didn't test the knee, the other bits of contact. You didn't data that. You just went for the head-on-head. So of course, But what about the rest?
Manipulating the data. I mean, let's face it. If you drop the tackle height and you get everybody saying at waist and everything, you're going to get knees to the head. You're going to get boots to the head. You're increasing the risk. In fact,
the ball carrier will close the window and he'll try and dip. And as a coach, and you will be looking at the areas you can manipulate it 100%. No matter what law they put in, there's always ways you're going to try and make it work for your team. So the ball carrier do something different. There will be they make it worse. And I think
we got guys literally running like that these days because they can't get.
But you can't pick and go in the French. You couldn't pick and go. It was a penalty against the ball carrier. So Exeter's gone. They're getting to your 22 and score try conversions. That's gone through the roof. That's got out the window, mate. So all that
again it was the difference between the amateur and the professional level as well, because like you said about concussion, your lad at 13, 21 days, no ifs, no buts. Professional, well, providing you pass these boxes, you're all right.
Yeah.
The tackle height was it Championship and Premiership? Yeah, carry on as normal, but everybody else below, well, you've got to do this.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's not as dangerous in the profestional game?
100%. Yeah.
It's double standards across the board, and I think and the fact that certainly from the amateur game was that 50% of adult players didn't come back after COVID. Well, all of a sudden you've got a smaller pool. I know that clubs around with me where they had 3 teams before are now struggling to put out 2 teams or even 1 team.
Yeah.
And that's because people didn't come back after COVID.
Yeah.
Now you're reducing tackle heights.
Yeah.
It's devastating.
The other thing about the lads doing the court case is it's not your brain can repair itself over a big trauma instance, or a knockout, or I remember speaking to a neuroscientist on this and a professor of brains, and they were saying that they've dealt with people in the army, say who's had half his head shot off. His brain will fix itself, and he won't get all the things talking about dementia. That'll be down later on in his life, maybe like everyone else, and he will be an healthy adult and he'll be all fine. that brain can repair itself. What it can't repair itself from is the sub-concussions of every day's training of contact and the constant little knockouts of I've been knocked out on a Saturday, I do training again on Friday, I do a scrum, so scrums, all that, more is all those little collisions. And then I'll play again Saturday. It can't repair itself. It hasn't got time to repair itself, so it's
under
that period.
constant pressure.
And it's the contact in training, we used to do 100 scrums on a Tuesday. We'd have full-on like contact sessions for hours. At Gloucester, we played our United on a Thursday and battered the shit at each other. It's like you had all that going on. So that's why the players are now having their problems, because no one knew how to really manage all that. So the stopping the quick turnarounds when you have a concussion or any sort of contact with the head, and then stopping those little sub concussions in training is the way forward. I mean, I look at NFL; they only do 15 minutes a week, and that's what the World Rugby's adopted, and that's what should be more pushed, rather than the games where we get the odd high tackle or the odd collision that affects people. It's because if we have that protocol afterwards that they do have 21 days if they get knocked out, then the brain can recover and then they can go back, because that's not going to cause the damage like the quick turnaround and the constant hitting. And that's, for me, that's the difference. And I don't think why we have to change the law because of that. Change the game. It will change the game. 100% change the game. You look at Fiji's probably licking their lips, thinking we're going to be the best team in the world, because no one's tackling like stopping their offloads. Sonny Bill wants to come back. He's like, I'm in. It's like a great game. Jeez.
It is going to be that kind of barbarians rugby.
And it'll be basketball. It'll be you score, we score, and it'll be just about errors. That's all it'll be. And I'm up for the free-flowing game. 100%. I've always been a back in a fat bloke's body. So watching Moors and all that stuff, I'm not interested. I was never interested as a player, unless I was at the back holding the ball and I wanted to score. That was the only time I was interested. But I'm up for all that. But there's ways to do it. I think there's better ways to make the game safer than that sort of reaction we've had at the moment.
Definitely. So let's kind of go then. So you retired, and then you did what?
Mike Friday. In a way, again, quite lucky. I had a year to get back from my injury, so I had to fight to get myself back. So it was make or break, and I was told it could last 5 minutes or 5 years. We don't know. So I was panicking. So I went to every event I could. I did all my training and courses, and I did some coaching and Mike Friday was with the Sevens, England Sevens at the time, and he said, look, will you come and help us out? So I did a bit of that for him whilst I was injured. And then when I had to retire and call it a day, England Sevens said, would you do that part-time? But what I did in the meantime was I learned how to sort of network, and I went to an event, a lunch, and I met a guy called Mervyn Davis, who was the chairman of Standard Chartered Bank at the time, and Mike Rees, who's the CEO of Standard Chartered. And we talked about what I was going to do. And I said, look, I've never done nothing. I've got no qualifications. This is me. I'm panicking a bit, and I've got coaching. And they said, well, why don't you come and run our sports sponsorship? And we sponsor loads of rugby in Asia, and we want a client relationship department. We don't do that really. We got nothing. They wanted to build it, and they said, look, you seem, you're good entertainment on the piss, I suppose, to look after clients. And they offered me and said, look, take this. If it does happen, then give me a call. And I did. And thankfully, Mike Rees, I think the world of him. I'll always be grateful of giving my first job outside rugby. And he said, great, you have to move to Singapore. We'll sort things out. And then Mike Friday was like, great, you can do the Sevens as well. So I balanced both, and it was good for the bank because we sponsored the Singapore leg of the World Series. So for them to have me on the series and do all that, it was perfect. So I commuted. So I did the coaching and I did the bank stuff, which was an amazing 4 years of my life, to be fair. It was a good time. I speak to some players now. I was very lucky because I got away from, Wasps went on to win another European Cup and another Premiership, and England done well. And, it was a period that I was bitter and twisted that I was out of rugby. So all my mates, playing still and winning things, and I was gone and forgotten. And, I was lucky to be in Singapore and have a job. And and just I didn't watch any rugby for about 2 years. I wouldn't watch England on TV, wouldn't follow Wasps again. You know, I just got away and lived in Singapore and did my work, and that was it. So that was tough. But yeah, but I did that, and then I did the England Sevens. So I had 4 great years with Stan Chard, and they allowed me to still do the coaching, which was great.
Cool. And then what?
Oh yeah, and then I got offered to come back to Wasps and do a bit of coaching there. And London Welsh, actually, Danny Wilson was at London Welsh then, and he offered me to come back, and I was always back anyway. And I've just met my wife now, and so I was back in London a week every month, so I never really left. So when I got offered that, I spoke to Mike about going back into rugby, and he was up for it, and I continued doing bits for the bank. And so I moved back to England and went full on into rugby, you know, and that was it. So I did Welsh, did Wasps, bit of Wasps, did England still, and then I went full time at Welsh when Danny moved on to, I think he went to the Scarlets after that, and I took over at London Welsh, and then you know was against Rob Baxter at Exeter and all that sort of stuff, and they were coming through. So yeah, no, it was a good learning curve for me, you know, to learn my trade really.
With old Dennis there at Wasps and London Welsh as well.
Yeah. So it was a good time, you know, when we were strong in the championship, got to the playoffs most years, and then the Sevens sort of come knocking again. Did a bit with Mike with Kenya, then I did a bit with learning Scottish as well, and then Nigel Melville was at USA, and they were they were struggling and looking to be relegated from the series, and he asked us to come along and do it, and 10 years later, I'm still with the US. Yeah.
How are you finding that then? Kind of the leap from, you know, kind of coaching the 15 game to coaching the Sevens game and internationally?
It's all the same. Like, you know, the Sevens game is not any different. It's just all the skills of 15s is under the microscope, you know. So the breakdown, the tackle, the pass, the kickoffs, the lineouts, the scrum, it's all the same, you know. It's just that we are so detailed about it because you have to get it right. If you don't get it right, you're so exposed. You know, if you tackle a lot, if your alignment's not right, your foot placement of your tackle, your body weight coming through the tackle, and you miss a tackle, it's all everyone sees it. You know, at 15s you got your mate a yard away, he could help you out. You know, in Sevens you got 10, 15 meters, you got to manage yourself. So everything's under the microscope and everything's exaggerated. And you look at the breakdown, the detail we go on the breakdown is ridiculous because you got one guy who needs to do a job. In 15s, if you miss it, you guarantee there's some other bloke coming right with you to deal with it as well. And there's probably 2 or 3 of you dealing with a ruck, where Sevens you've got to be spot on. So there's no difference, and you know it does niggle me a bit when people say, "Oh, it's a different." It's nowhere near. I mean, the structures and the game in Sevens now is more physical and more organised than it's ever been. You know, and you know even teams, you know, like 15s, you know, they plan 2-3 phases of set plays because you've got to break down the Ds and you've got to do something like that. And it's a massively fit and intense sport. You know, you look at some of the 15s guys who come across who couldn't survive in it because of the exposure of physicality and fitness and skill sets. You know, it's interesting. I find that interesting, being a bit of a detailed nerd and having a performance background as well. Now I sort of see all of it, and it's a great pathway. You know, and I think the Kiwis, the Aussies, and the South Africans got it right by using it as a pathway. And you know, it'd be nice to see England. Well, we can't anymore because they've disbanded, but you know, having it as a pathway would have been brilliant for some of these young players to experience it. But experience a 40,000 seater stadium, you know, rather than playing for the A's on a Monday night with nothing, or maybe sitting on the
more
bench,
man and his dog.
You know, so it's a massive development pathway, huge. You know, and the traits you learn because you've got to be so fit and so detailed and attention to detail your skills. When you take that to 15s, it's a piece of piss. It really is, you know, because the game's slower and it's not so manic, I suppose.
Yeah, I've never thought of Sevens that way, to be fair. Mind you,
everyone still thinks it's the Serevi days, you know, people running backwards, and you know, even the Fijian team, you know, they're quite structured, you know. It's just that they're bloody good one-on-one with the offloads and how they support, and you know, they're big guys with big arms. So it's the game has moved on massively, and the conditions in it is through the roof. Absolutely through the roof. There aren't many 15s boys you could live with the Sevens lot.
I was going to say, as a prop, I'm built for comfort, not for speed. So Sevens was never really one of those games for me. So you've also got the is it the Athlete Factory or?
Yeah, so I've got my business, the Athlete Factory. We've got a few sites now, and we sort of built a facility at Chester Rugby Club that's sort of pretty good, going well. And I've sort of took my knowledge of elite sport and wanted to share with everyone, because again, the human body is the human body. It only works in certain ways, and the difference between elite and amateur, I suppose, is the programming, the equipment, and the knowledge of the coach that's looking after you. So that's what we're trying to share with everyone. So we got everyone who joins gets a training app, gets monitored and screened like a pro player. Be it a weekend warrior or a mum trying to get fit after giving birth to pro athlete. Like I said, we had Wigan in last week. We've got we got Paddy the Baddy trains at us, the UFC boy. So we got them, but then we got Chester Rugby Club. We got hockey, netball. We got kids. It's for everyone. We're just trying to share that knowledge with everyone. So that's going really well. And luckily we've got a factory that we design our own kit, so that's quite cool, because I take a lot of the stuff I see in the States and then reinvent it and try and re-engineer it and make it better and develop it here. So that's why we're able to do stuff for Ellis and his gym, and for Wigan we've built their gym. We've got a couple other teams that we're building for and places. So it's quite built some for Eddie Jones and the England boys. A couple of attachments, and because we can I can just draw stuff and go, can you do that? Does that make sense? And some clever engineer goes, yeah, absolutely, and they just make it, and that's it. So we're very lucky at that, but that means that we can design and build gyms and equipment for other people. We've got our own gyms and our own methodology of coaching, and that's what we're trying to do. So that's my sort of side bit, and I've got a great team around me that really help and support and just let me do the blue sky, the idea stuff, and do the rugby stuff, and
scrub it down on a napkin, do that. Yeah.
Lads, I've sorted this end like that. Oh God,
not again.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to a mate of mine who's in the S&C industry before jumping on this, and we were talking about Ellis's gym, and even he was saying it looks absolutely fantastic, from his experience as well. So.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, we're very. I'm very, very fortunate, very lucky to have a good team. But also, I'm taking that elite sport knowledge and bringing it in. And my job with the Olympic Committee with the US, it does open doors for me to go see other things, which the equipment and the way they do stuff over there is totally different to here. And we're just trying to use that knowledge really. And Ellis, I'm actually doing a bit of work today for him, because hopefully he's going to expand, and we're going to do a bit more on to expand his place in Leicester, which would be fantastic.
I was going to say his is in Leicester at the moment. I mean, I'd be shocked if there wasn't a Bristol one, on the horizon at some stage.
So that'd be great for hopefully we can jump in with him on where he goes with that, and that's the exciting thing of it. It's not just our own flagship, our own facilities. We've got one in Manchester. We'll have one in Leeds this year as well. One in North Wales. So we're developing our own fleet, but then helping other rugby players with their post career, because we can give them the blueprint to make it work and supply the kit and make it cost effective. And the learnings I've done over the last 5 years of building the one at Chester, I can share with rugby players, and that's what I want to do as well, because no one thinks about. I definitely didn't. I didn't have to do it until I was 29 and I had an injury, and I was like, shit, what am I going to do now? They need to start planning that, because rugby's not going to last forever. They're making very good money, but it's not going to last forever. So you've got to have the next thing, and Ellis has done a great job in thinking like that. And the guy who's with him, Sam, who was a former, he was at Roslyn Park, I think, and a few other clubs. He's gave up now to just go full time and drive this. So again, he's had to think about what he does post career. But it's a great avenue, I think, for rugby players as well, because they can. They've already got a knowledge of what it's about. It's just then getting that business sense to go ahead and do it. And it's going to be great to be with Ellis along that journey, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's, I suppose, one of the important things about professional rugby players these days and professional sports people in general is that the career only lasts for so long.
Yeah.
There is that window. It's not a case of, well, once you finish playing, well, that's it. It's game
Well,
over,
no,
life
yeah,
over. You still got a hell of a lot of life
a
to
long
live.
time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It don't really, you know, it's better now. But my era and just after my era, nothing was in place. I can remember boys finishing their careers and ringing me when I was at the bank asking for jobs, and I'd hook them up with some brokers or other industries, and I say, "Oh, how'd you get on with the interview? Oh, yeah, he's good. He's going to offer me a job. Oh, brilliant, great, happy days. Yeah, but
yeah,
I'm not going to take it. Well, why not? But it's only 40 grand. Yeah, but that's the real world, and you've got no qualification or experience in this. You're 32. What are you thinking?
yeah,
That's the real
yeah.
world.
This is
It
your
will
first
build up.
real proper job.
Yes, and that's with bloody good money for the real world. So what you nah, all right. And you're like, wow. And that sort of opened my eyes a bit when I was at the bank, because it's like, Jesus, guys, you're in a bubble, And I was in a bubble. My wife has to go at me now because I'm useless at bills and stuff. Because when I was at Wasps, they took after care of everything. Whatever was left was my beer money. So I didn't have to. I mean, I don't know where the gas meter is here. So if someone asks what the meter reading is, I won't have a clue. My wife does that. But like that, because I always did that. Like someone else did that for me. Like, because they had a
Brilliant.
philosophy of like, we want you to just focus. I want no worries in your life. Just please have rugby as your focal point. Be the best you can be. We'll pick up the rest. So it was like great.
Yeah,
Your cars and all that. Like, I never bought a car till I was, in my 30s, for God's sake, because I always had a sponsored car from the club. So, I remember at Gloucester, I never took, never really took my driving test, because I went and took it, and the bloke was a Gloucester fan, and we were playing Bath at the weekend. I'm a young kid, just 17. Now I made they were saying, you sat in the car just talking about Gloucester and my debut and age the season, and you got Bath. Oh yeah, for ages talking about rugby. And then he said, read that number plate, and I was like, he said, great, well done, good luck the weekend. He signed me off. I never even got out of the place, never even got out of the centre, and and then I ring Gloucester, and I've passed. Oh great, popped down the Peugeot garage, and my first car was a Peugeot 306, a little red one, sponsored by the guys there. So it's like that. It's always been like that, and I guess it's worse now. But it never really, rugby doesn't really sometimes give you the skills, the practical skills.
yeah,
It gives you a lot of life skills, but it doesn't give some skills. And yeah, you got to learn it as you go. But it's interesting, that post career. And we do it with the American team, the players and the girls there. Well, we have it's called a care program, so they get extra money from a philanthropist group who put money in, but they've got to get a job, they've got to go and do a placement, they've got to do projects, they've got to prove for this to get their money for the year. Some of the guys go off in the summer and do 4 weeks in a shoe. Well, one of the philanthropists, he's a shoe manufacturer. He's got the night contract. So he's always had the night contract. So you can imagine he's pretty wealthy.
yeah,
But, some of the players have gone off to their factories in China or in Holland, and understood the business and done that, and that's how they're trying to grow them of what they want to do.
mm,
And I think that's really important. Sarries do that really well, and other clubs are doing that well. So that's great for players. It's opening up their eyes to business and the new opportunities, and and doing it. That's as a player now, you should be grasping that opportunity as much as you can, because I wish I'd have had it when I played. I was lucky to meet Mike and Mervyn, who gave me a job, but to start me off on a business and do that would be it's invaluable. And people like Ellis is doing that right now, and there's a lot of players who are starting to do that. So it's helping them for their post career, because you're a long time retired. You need
yeah.
something else.
Yeah, and I was talking to Phil Davis about this, and kind of he was saying, I mean, he did lots of jobs. He went into the police for a couple of years, came
That's
out
right.
because he wanted to play rugby, and obviously
Yeah.
back in those days it was amateur, so therefore okay, you might have got slung a few quid here and there, but it was amateur, and he said whereas some of the guys that he was playing with who were in the forces and have now come out and they've got decent pensions, they're all
Yeah.
right. Okay, yes, he's saying he's still working, but I mean, he's
No,
director of
you're right.
rugby for World Rugby.
Yeah,
It's not exactly a bad job to have, but
no.
he said he's been fortunate enough to kind of keep
Well, he's
within
also got to
rugby.
bounce around. There's players in Meyer and
Yeah,
before us. Where you were placed in I don't know, a broken. Say if you're at Harlequins, you got placed at a broken firm in London as a little side job. You do that one day a week on your off day. The rest of the time you're training. But once you're retired, you've been in that job for like 5, 6, 6 years. You go into the job, you know you're full time, you know everything, you're in there, and you got a job for life, sort of thing. And that's
yeah,
you're almost better off in those days being like that, than now having everything all in one window, and then that's now finished. What am I going
now
to do
what?
now? Yeah, and I think that's
Yeah,
you find that's a quite a depressing thing. I remember it was when I got, I got my crystal encounter with my once a wasp, always a wasp, and handshake, and I woke up in my flat the next day, and that was it. 40 of my mates are all at work. I'm on my own. I'm like, well, what do I do?
now what?
Right, lads, what are you up to? Oh, we're training. We got a game this weekend. So, okay, I might see you later then. You like that? Oh, shit. And I end up, sort of going to the pub and having a few beers on my on my own because I have nothing else to do.
Yeah,
Until I got myself, like I said, sorted out with Stan Child. But it's a depressing place if you haven't got your future sorted.
mm, yeah. It's a weird one, isn't it?
Very strange. I guess it's like being in the military. That's how I sort of related to. It's like being in the military all your life, and then suddenly you're released and you're out. Well, what now? Unless
Yeah,
you've
now what?
prepped for that, what is a horrible place to be. But
Yeah,
it's something it is being dealt with. I think the PRA is doing a decent job at the moment. There's lots more that can be done, but I think people are growing into that and that understanding. So hopefully the players are in a good place for the future.
yeah. I know from again talking with other players, saying that they put on courses, like what do you want to do, kind of what's interesting to you, and kind of, helping to steer. Um, I mean, yeah, just I've had Mike Denby on before
Oh
from
yeah,
London
yeah.
Welsh. I mean, to be fair, Dennis just seems like he plays golf for a living these days, schmoozing. Yeah, exactly. But again, kind of got transitioned into that kind of world. Um, yeah, well, I mean, he's got the gift of the gab anyway. Um, but yeah, I suppose it is always a kind of a strange one because when you look at other sports, you look at things like football, and you go, well, they're earning, hundreds of thousands of
Sit back
pounds
on your
per
millions.
week,
You don't
and
have to worry about it. Buy a load
yeah,
of flats, and a lot of them just do that. And, oh well,
yeah,
you got money to do stuff. But if you're, if you're on a certain lifestyle and you're only on, I don't know, 150 grand a year, and that's your lifestyle, but then that finishes. Where's that 150 coming from? Because that's big dough in the real world.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've got a guy called James Hildreth coming on, who's a cricketer, played for
Mm.
Somerset. He even has a stand named after him at Somerset
Yeah,
now. Obviously, he's now gone into financial planning.
yeah,
But kind of from a mere mortal point of view, you go, yeah, but you've got a stand named after you at a club.
yeah,
Surely that's like minted.com type thing.
yeah.
But the reality is that the sporting
No,
career is short and sharp and sweet and make
yeah,
make hay while the sun shines type thing.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So what's next for you then?
Well, just we got the USA, we got the Olympics next year, so it's a big season for us. Olympic qualifying year for the men and women. So if we qualify, that'd be brilliant for the automatic because top four in the HSB series to qualify. So if we can get that, the women are trending well. We've dropped off a little bit, the men. So if we get that, that'd be brilliant. Ready for Paris next year. So and then I'm trying to develop players and coaches in the US to grow the game, and hopefully and also take over from me because I think probably my last my last Olympics with the US. It's been 10 years and the commute's killing me.
Yeah.
And you know, I've got to focus more on the family and probably doing rugby more this side of the pond. And the business, you know, so the plan is to drive the business. So I said we got a big project in Leeds. Should be in the summer. We've got a couple of sports clubs we've partnered up with, because again, we got this idea, concept of, you know, sports clubs have got the facility and the grounds, and they've got they need some revenue coming in, because obviously they don't full-time function. Probably Tuesday, Thursday nights, and the weekend is when they got anyone in the club. So we're looking at teaming up with some sports clubs. We've got one rugby club in the Midlands who we've done now. We're just designing it where, you know, we build a gym that's for the community and also the team. And so there's a revenue and a partnership there that the club will get obviously a profit share. We service the community, but also their team has a world-class facility of training. So we're doing a bit of that. So I'm working on a bit of that at the moment. So yeah, trying to drive the business and do more, you know, equipment designing and selling. So yeah, I'm trying to drive that a bit more. But the rugby will always be there. And yeah, I think the next couple of years there'll be a few changes, but yeah, got to kick in with the business really and get back this side of the pond, or do more in America where I help coaches a bit more, you know, because I said we're trying to do some more coach education and mentor a few coaches, and you know, we've got a couple of young players now who probably are earmarked to take over, I think, at some point. So it's sharing that knowledge with them really.
Cool. I'll be getting a bit more insight into the USA rugby, because I've got Dave Hodges coming on.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, good Dave. He's a good man.
So I'm sure you two have had a few clashes on the pitch. You know, Scarlets against Wasps.
No, I don't think. I don't know. I think he's just before. I think, but he was my general manager when I did the 15s. So with the US 15s, when me and John Mitchell and Marty Ville, another Wasp boy, did the US 15s. So yeah, he was my guy. So yeah, say hello. But he's a top man, Dave. Big Dave.
Yeah. Definitely, mate. Thanks so much for coming on.
Absolute pleasure.
We have literally dived into, you know, the politics of rugby, the
Everything,
finances, you know, the social side of what we can mention anyway.
Yeah.
Mate, it's been really good. I reckon we've got at least another episode
100%
to do.
Yeah. 100%.
So I really appreciate you coming on, mate. So but look, guys, if you're watching, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Look, Phil, we'll put your links to socials in, but you know, where can people follow you?
Well, theathletefactory.co.uk is the business, and then I've got philgreeningcoaching.com as well. So check them out. And yeah, on a few socials, but not great on. I've got to get better at that. But there's two websites that you can get hold of me on.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Guys, keep an eye out for future episodes, and yeah, keep liking and subscribing. Cheers, guys.